The Carolinas are on the clock as hurricane season is here, and those sea surface temperatures, they're already rising. The Super El Niño is nearly upon us. You've been hearing about that all spring long. What that means for our hurricane season and the impacts. Plus, how Charlotte prepares for the unexpected. My interview with the Emergency Management Director here in Mecklenburg County. I'm WCNC Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Welcome to our Hurricane IQ Special. Our entire weather impact team is here to help you prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. So all the major players have their forecasts out, including NOAA, the National Hurricane Center, as well as NC State and Colorado State University. We take a look at NOAA's forecast. You can see below average forecast because of that El Nino. We expect below average named storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes. Now, NC State locally, Dr. Shear there goes into these numbers, and he expects below average as well. He was on our live weather impact show, and he explains how they came to these numbers.
Been doing this for 20 years now. And, in order to predict the future months ahead of time, we're looking for something that has a good memory. It turns out that the ocean has better memory than the atmosphere. So a lot of things we look at is from the ocean, including the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And that's the primary drivers for, things to happen during the hurricane season.
But remember, it only takes one storm to make it a bad season and have a lasting impact. Remember back in 1992, for example, there were only 7 named storms that entire season, well below average. But Hurricane Andrew was a Category 5. It was the very first storm of the season. It devastated parts of South Florida and eventually impacted parts of Louisiana as well. So it's really important to know that the number of storms, while important going into the season, we really want to know where they're going to go and how bad they're going to get. Let's talk about why we think there's going to be a limitation on the number of storms this season. A climate pattern called El Nino, and we've heard a lot about it already, is going to cause issues for the hurricane season. It's actually going to cause us to see lower amounts of hurricanes. Now, meteorologist Becca Birdsall explains why that is going to happen during this upcoming season.
El Nino is one of the most powerful drivers of global weather, and right now it's building strength in the Pacific. At its core, it's simply warmer than normal water, spreading across the central and eastern equator. But that heat changes everything in the atmosphere above it. The Climate Prediction Center gives it a 63% chance this reaches very strong status, which would place it among the most intense El Nino events on record. Let's simplify this by thinking of each ocean as a pot of water on a stovetop. As the temperature is raised on one side, it is inversely lowered on the other side and vice versa. The pot on the left represents the Pacific Ocean. We now know the temperature has already risen 1 or 2 degrees above average in the Pacific. Some forecasts show the Pacific could get 3 or even 4 degrees above average this year. The increase in steam from the left pot represents a warming Pacific Ocean, sending more moisture into the air. Moisture is not the only consideration. The jet stream blows from west to east, represented here by a fan. The jet stream carries that extra moisture east. While an El Nino typically carries moisture east, it also brings an increase in wind shear. These winds can actually limit storm production in the Atlantic. Any potential storms would need to overcome that blowing air. With your Hurricane IQ, I'm meteorologist Becca Birdsall.
In recent years, names like Hurricane Melissa, Hurricane Helene have obviously been removed from the list of future hurricane names because they were particularly destructive or they caused a lot of fatalities. Now, how do these storms get their names? It's a good question. Meteorologist Majestic Storm shows us how.
Every tropical system has a name, but none of them are random. Let's raise your weather IQ on why we name storms in the first place. Storm names aren't just labels. They're a key part on clear communication that helps people quickly tell storms apart and understand warnings when dangerous weather is approaching. The United States Weather Bureau, which preceded the National Weather Service, started naming storms in 1950 using the phonetic alphabet. In 1953, they switched to only using female names. There's a conflicting source of why exactly, but many point to the maritime tradition of referring to the ocean as a female. Regardless of why, in 1979, the World Meteorological Organization switched to alternating female and male names after a big push for equality. Now, there are 6 rotating lists for the Atlantic Basin, meaning the list used this year won't come back again until 2032. The origins come from English, Spanish, and French cultures, reflecting the languages commonly spoken in those regions. That's why some storm names might not be pronounced the way we do in the United States. Each year, the list contains 21 names moving alphabetically from A to W. Q, U, X, Y, and Z are skipped because there simply aren't enough common names that start with them. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Some names are never used again. Names like Katrina, Hugo, Florence, and Helene have all been retired from the list. This happens when a storm is so deadly or destructive that reusing the name would be considered insensitive. During extremely active seasons, we can run out of names. While it's only happened twice, there is a list of supplemental names if needed. With your Weather IQ, I'm meteorologist Majestic Storm.
And when we come back, it's been nearly 2 years since Hurricane Helene devastated western North Carolina, and the repairs, they're still ongoing. We're going to talk to the man responsible for a lot of those infrastructure projects. And still to come, how Charlotte prepares for hurricanes and tropical systems. We're going to talk to the emergency manager for our area. Plus, the forecast cone. We see it all the time on air and online. It's getting a major refresh this season. We'll talk to the Hurricane Center about those major refreshes coming up in our Hurricane IQ Weather Impact Special next. Welcome back. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, and we are preparing for hurricane season right here at WCNC. It's our mission not only to inform, but also educate on how the world around us works. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy is now walking us through the phases of hurricane development.
These are the terms you need to know this hurricane season. Let's jump right into it and raise that weather IQ. Tropical disturbance. This is simply an area of thunderstorms in the tropics that has some organization. But these can turn into an invest. An invest is short for investigation area, meaning a disturbance is being watched by a forecast center and models are tracking it. For example, in the Atlantic, the first investigation area will be Invest 90L, continuing up to 99L before repeating back to 90. When a disturbance is forecast to make landfall as a tropical storm or hurricane within 48 hours and isn't named yet, a PTC or potential tropical cyclone will be issued. The National Hurricane Center started this in 2017, allowing them to issue advisories earlier. Once a rotating disturbance becomes a closed surface low and has one closed isobar like this, and has sustained winds up to 38 miles per hour, we now have a tropical depression. Tropical depressions are numbered, not named. As the circulation becomes faster and tighter, so do the sustained winds. Once those winds are at least 39 miles per hour, a tropical storm is named. Tropical storm winds range from 39 to 73 miles per hour. When winds are 74 miles per hour or greater, a hurricane is born. A hurricane is graded on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Once a hurricane reaches Category 3, it's considered a major hurricane. Note, all the above are tropical cyclones, and once they're at the end of their life cycle, they become post-tropical cyclones, going by one of two names: a remnant low when winds are less than 39 miles per hour, or an extratropical cyclone, which can still have hurricane force winds but is no longer tropical. Wishing you a safe hurricane season, I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with WCNC Charlotte.
The Carolinas are currently in one of the worst droughts in almost 2 decades, but can you believe it? We can still get flooding in the midst of a drought. But here's the thing about droughts. Droughts tend to feed upon themselves. When the ground is dry like it is now, the sun's energy heats the ground, which then heats the air, and that causes the ridge, which is producing, or the high pressure system producing the drought, to get worse and worse. When the ground is wet, the sun's energy actually goes into evaporating that moisture and reduces the chances for drought persisting. But here's the thing, when the ground is rock hard like it is now and we get a tropical system, that water will run off very quickly and we can get flash flooding even in the midst of a drought. So for that reason, North Carolina is trying to be resilient for flooding, and meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees talks about how they're trying to mitigate that risk.
Helene, Florence, Matthew, the great floods of 1940 and 1916. Flooding has impacted every corner of North Carolina at some point in history. That's why in 2021, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality began developing the Flood Resiliency Blueprint.
How can we provide the data, tools, and support to local communities, to the state, and to other partners to help them make the best decisions about how they can reduce the cost and disruption from future flooding?
Stuart Brown is the program manager for the Blueprint. I asked him whether the project has pivoted since Helene.
Resilience planning is not meant to be responsive to a single event. It's about making the sort of proactive decisions that can reduce the cost and disruption of flooding in the future.
The Resiliency Blueprint is funded by the General Assembly, but it's currently only funded and authorized for 6 of North Carolina's 17 river basins: the French Broad, Tar Pamlico, Neuse, White Oak, Cape Fear, and Lumber. Brown says they started with these areas due to recent flood impacts, but they are looking to expand.
The program was always envisioned to be statewide, and we're optimistic that we'll have an opportunity to expand and build on the program.
He says funding is the most likely reason for the Catawba River Basin here in our area not being included right now. But he says they do coordinate with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Stormwater Services.
But I think a lot of the uplift that the Blueprint program is going to provide is going to be for the communities that don't have the resources or the continued investment in flood resilience and flood mitigation.
The Blueprint is rolling out in phases. One of the most recent updates is an online tool for enhanced flood mapping and risk management, with the ultimate goal of creating a more resilient North Carolina. For WCNC Charlotte, I'm meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees.
When the WCNC Hurricane IQ Special returns, a look at the power of floodwaters and the ongoing highway repairs still going on after Helene. Welcome back to the WCNC Hurricane IQ Special. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. It's been almost 2 years, it's hard to believe, since Hurricane Helene's destructive power in western North Carolina. And to try to build back better, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has really been leading that charge. They have really undertaken one of the costliest repair projects in state history. Now, the project head, Tim Anderson, he's the engineer that has overseen many of the repairs. And we spoke to him on our streaming show, Live Weather Impact, about that ongoing effort.
The little spreadsheet there kind of sums it up. Every storm that we've been tracking since 2016 added together is about $678 million in total expenditure. That's all work complete. And we're already around the $1.5 billion range with emergency repairs and quite a bit of actual permanent repair. But we still have major permanent repairs left, like those corridors of 19W, 197 South up in Yancey County, Tonella, Chuckey area, and Yancey and Mitchell, and of course Chimney Rock, and then I-40.
As scientists, we're always looking for better ways to communicate the message. That's why the National Hurricane Center is making changes to its hurricane cone. This is an example from potential tropical cyclone 1. They want to see a better way to kind of communicate the threats from the hurricanes. During our streaming show, Live Weather Impact, we talked to Robbie Berg about the new line of communication methods that they are using from the National Hurricane Center.
Yeah, so we've been experimenting for the past couple of years on our cone of uncertainty, or our track forecast cone, and depicting what we're calling inland watches and warnings. So take a storm like Helene. We knew that there were going to be strong winds all across the Western Carolinas, and tropical storm warnings were issued for those areas. So we are able to depict that on our cone now, not just depicting the coastal watches and warnings. So that is a change that people will see this year on hurricanes.gov, our website, when they're looking at that track forecast cone.
For more weather insights and news-making interviews, I hope you'll join us each night at 6:30 for Live Weather Impact. Please download the WCNC streaming app right now on your smart TV so you can catch that each night, Monday through Friday. They're on watch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any impacts from tropical systems and all types of weather disasters. When WCNC's Hurricane IQ Special returns, I talk to the head of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management Office on how they prepare for these big events. Welcome back to our Hurricane IQ Special here on WCNC. I want to welcome in a good friend of ours, as well as a very important person here in Mecklenburg County, Chief White Graham. He is the emergency manager here in Mecklenburg County. Talk a little bit about how you guys prepare for these events, whether it's a tropical storm, a hurricane, or sometimes even the remnants of a tropical system and the impacts we're going to see here in Mecklenburg County.
We stay weather aware all the time. So this part of being an emergency manager is looking out, seeing what's happening today, seeing what's happening in the future. And so if I start to see a trend, if I see 3 or 4 models that are basically the same,
yeah,
then I'll reach out to the staff. I'll say, okay, we need to talk about this. This is something we need to watch. You're trying to predict what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so community of emergency managers is probably about 1,000 throughout the county, because it's the city, the county, the 6 towns. And we start to send information out to all of our partners. As we get closer, then we really start to do our planning cycle and say, okay, what do we need to do? And that can come in a variety of different things, but the biggest one is probably opening the Emergency Operations Center, making that determination. We always try to make sure that we are ready for the worst, and not have, we would much rather have too many resources than not enough resources. Not enough resources get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Too many resources, after a storm was over, you can go, well, it wasn't as bad as we thought, but we were prepared. And so our job is to be prepared as a community.
And for me personally, when we're communicating weather to the public, it's like, here's what's most likely going to happen. But for you guys, it's really, you are planning for that worst case scenario. And so talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you guys decide, like, to over prepare basically for a storm or an event like this?
When we sit down and we start having our planning meetings, CMPD is in the room. We have I consider them part of the emergency management core team. We have very close liaisons, and they're communicating with the police chief, Chief Patterson now, and she's talking to the fire chief. There's a senior leadership team within the city of Charlotte. There's a senior leadership team with the county. And so the great thing about emergency management is we don't do org charts and we don't do bureaucracy. Yeah. We're able to talk to anybody that we need to talk to directly. So if I need to talk to the county manager, I call the county manager directly, and we're having those conversations. We also have to determine, are we going to shut down normal operations? And so normal operations of the city, the county, the towns, and are we going to encourage the public to stay home? Yeah. And when we open the Emergency Operations Center, what it really is a consolidation of government. It's bringing all the key leaders into one room to have face-to-face conversations and make decisions for our community as we go through a storm. I think we're really good at it. Yeah. I really do. And we've been through a lot of different storms. We've been tested. But going back to our worst-case scenario, most people do not remember Hurricane Hugo in 1989.
Yeah.
Most people, they don't have that memory. The city has grown tremendously since then. And I'm from Henderson County, so Helene hits me personally. I mean, my family went through a lot of travails during that storm, and it took a long time to recover. Power, we work very closely with Duke Energy. It is incredibly important to get the power back on as soon as possible after a storm. Getting power back on fixes a lot of problems. And in my home county, they went 14 days without any power. Generally speaking, if it's a tropical system, we're going to be looking at days of hot, humid, and people are not going to be happy. Getting shelters opened up, getting locations opened up so people can cool down. And we're constantly pushing this preparedness message, because sometimes people don't think about the worst case scenarios, and it is our job to think about the worst case scenarios. If you plan for the worst case scenarios, you're always going to be better off if you don't hit that worst case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quickly, talk a little about how you guys support the rest of the state, because I mean, if there's a big event in eastern North Carolina or Helene in the mountains, you guys end up supporting a lot of other parts of the state because of the resources you have available.
The decision was made a very long time ago, was emergency management was placed within the Charlotte Fire Department, and so it's an agency within an agency. That also means that Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management Office gets to take advantage of the 1,400 members of the Charlotte Fire Department, and then also all the other resources are with the city. And I always talk about this, Charlotte Fire Department essentially serves as a rescue squad for the state of North Carolina, the region, and even nationally. We have swiftwater rescue teams, we have urban search and rescue teams, we have helo aquatic rescue teams, we have hazmat teams, we have incident management teams, we have special communications packages that we send out. And I think I've been deployed a number of times, and I always look back on that in my career, and I think those are the times when I take the most pride in, because you're helping people when they're in the greatest need. And so you may see Charlotte firefighters in Hyde County, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. You may see Charlotte firefighters in Macon County, North Carolina. And that certainly happened during Helene, and that is something that the city of Charlotte should be very proud of.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, you guys kind of like I don't want to say unsung heroes, but people don't really get to see you or talk about you until something bad happens. But I think the important thing is you guys do so much ahead of time. The big part of emergency management is mitigating a lot of these issues ahead of time. Appreciate all the work you do. We're very blessed here in Mecklenburg County to have a great emergency management team, and you guys work great together with everybody. It's like you said, the fire department, police department. Having been on some of those calls, it's always it blows my mind. I wish the public knew how well the city and county actually work together. Sometimes we think we're dysfunctional, but it's really not when you see the behind the scenes part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for the WCNC Weather IQ Special on hurricanes this year. It's going to be a long season, folks, but we'll be here for you covering impacts during, before, and after the storm and educating you about why those storms form. On behalf of the whole Weather Impact team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Thank you for joining us.